The mid to late 90s was a pretty awesome time if you were into computers and the technology around them. Not only were there incremental upgrades coming out what felt like pretty much every month, but we saw the rapid rise of disc-based media first with CDs, then CD-ROM, and finally DVDs. Gone were the days of limited storage space as a complete wave of multimedia games and experiences flooded the market. Games often touted how many discs they came on just to show off how big they were. And everyone knew more discs meant a better game, right? DVDs eventually replaced CDs as the primary format and stuck around for a long time, until we moved to the download age later on. But back then, while multimedia captivated a lot of people, the mid to late 90s was also still firmly in the Beige tower era of computers. If you had a computer, chances were it was beige. And while I basically adore beige computers now, it was the norm back then. Almost everyone had one of some variety, regardless of the make of your computer. However, if you had a black machine or really any other color than beige, it often meant you had something special, something unique. Let's see if we can take something a bit different, throw some parts in it, and make something special. Welcome back to Rick's Random Retro, where black is the new beige. Building a computer, of course, starts with the parts. We'll go over what we have, and the general focus on this is the year 1998. See, while I have a lot of computers, I realized I did not have a Pentium 2 system ready to go. And that's where all this came from, because I have several Pentium 1 and Pentium 3 systems, but nothing for 2. While it's easy to argue that a good Pentium 3 machine easily serves the same function, I do like hoarding computers, and a flimsy excuse to build another machine is all I need to forge ahead. The Pentium 2 featured an ad campaign from Intel with the now famous Intel guy vibrantly showing off what a magical multimedia experiences awaited if you purchase one of their brand new CPUs. A slow pickup of parts over time has finally come to this, where we're ready to put a machine together. So let's take a look at what will go into our Pentium 2 based retro computer. If you look at a slot 1 machine which the Pentium 2 CPUs need, it's really hard to go wrong with a 440BX based motherboard. Ridiculously broad in compatibility to the home in an earlier machine all the way up to the later Pentium 3s. In fact, my other computer, the Pentium 3 1000 MHz I use for streaming, has another motherboard that is also used in the 440BX chipset. It's been rock solid through all the years I've used it. Now this specifically is an Asus P2B motherboard featuring that slot 1 CPU socket, as well as a full complement of AGP, PCI, and ISO slots. It's a fantastic all-rounder motherboard for our build, and really any machine going for that late 90s time period. The CPU is the heart of any retro PC build, and we're going with the fastest P2 that's available. This is a P2 450 MHz, which firmly plants this computer in the territory of the end of the era of the P2. By the launch of the CPU, the P3 was right around the corner heading into the early part of 1999, but the P2 wasn't down for the count yet. It should give our computer more than enough horsepower to play just about any game from the era we want to throw at it. Personally, I ran with the Pentium 2 300 for quite a while, looking back at this time period, so I'm eager to revisit that similar experience. Say what you will about the slot 1 form factor that Intel insisted on for this period of processors, but it sure does look cool. Insert that power. A retro PC without a video card would be pretty boring if you just sat there looking at an empty screen. We need a video card. While a 3DFX card is one that comes to mind, I wanted to instead go with a card I had myself back in the day. The classic Riva TNT here made by Diamond. The Voodoo cards, above all a single or a pair of Voodoo 2s, would fit quite happily in a machine of this era, but they're now apparently made of solid unobtainium and fetch a huge premium. It's just not worth it. Conversely, Nvidia was really hitting their stride with the Riva TNT. Building on the previous Riva 128, you now had a really compelling package of an all-in-one card that had good 2D image quality for desktop use, as well as strong 3D performance for the latest games. Nvidia had a true competitor on their hands with the TNT, and it was a sign of things to come from the green video card maker. Our Diamond V550 features 16MB of memory, AGP2X, integrated MPEG decoding, and it really is a terrific all-in-one card. We're seeing the first true signs of proper all-in-one solutions, and more manufacturers were coming out with products that were pushing the technology forward. It's easy to forget how quickly things were moving at the end of the 90s when it came to video cards, but the Riva TNT, and specifically our Diamond V550, was an important step forward amongst the competition. It'll be a great match for the Pentium 2 CPU. If you're talking about PC gaming in 1998, chances are you'll also consider a Sound Blaster live card for your sound. I think it's become the de facto sound card standard, and that's for good reason. As long as you pick the right model of Live, it works great in Windows 98 for just about every scenario. But the other pick that also comes to mind is an Oriole Vortex 2 based solution, like our Turtle Beach Montego 2 here. It has fantastic quality sound, is highly compatible, and carries with it a really good 3D spatial sound system in the form of A3D. Why not all games do take advantage of the extra features, the ones that do sound amazing? It's a really compelling sound card primarily for Windows 98 gaming, so it should suit our build very well and rounds out the multimedia chops of the computer very nicely. You can't have a system without some storage, and we're going authentic and period accurate with a 15GB spinning hard drive, this one from Seagate. It's easy enough to go with a larger hard drive, of course, but I had this one handy and it's very period correct, although we may have to make some choices on what games we install at the end of it. If I ever upgrade this machine, this is likely the first thing to get a boost. But if you want that proper experience of having to sweat about which games to install, you can't go more authentic than a hard drive that always seems just a bit too small. Plus, while there are many modern options that are really good, there's something about sounds made by real classic spinning hard drives. This hobby can be a little weird at times.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
We'll see the case in more detail shortly where it'll make more sense, but to round out our drives we'll have a standard floppy drive, as well as a little bit of an outlier, which is a DVD drive. See, DVDs, while popular in 1998, weren't quite as common to watch or use on computers yet. DVD burners were still expensive, but personally I got a DVD reader before I got a DVD player for my TV, and I enjoyed many movies this way. I spent quite a bit of time watching DVDs on my slot-load Pioneer DVD drive, utilizing an S-video cable connected to my TV strung half across the floor of my room. So we're adding a DVD drive to this machine to vastly increase the multimedia capabilities of it. Top it up with a nice floppy drive, also black, and we have an era-appropriate collection of drives ready for use. It's a 1998 computer build, so it's got to be Windows 98. Any questions? Nope? Okay, good. Windows 98 is a go to retro. Now then, you got to tie it all together with a proper case, and that is the HTC 7106BB that was new old stock when I got it. You can check out the link above for a short video of me unboxing it, but I think it's really cool. As of late, I've been really liking desktop systems of the horizontal variety, and let's be honest, if you had a black case in the late 90s, you were pretty cool. While there was an ocean of beige cases, while all still pretty awesome, a black one stood out completely, especially in this form factor. It was different, sleek, and usually reserved for something extra special or limited. It makes you think of stereo stack integrated computers, or maybe different region machines like the really hard to get Sharp X68000. You just didn't see many standard home use computer cases in any color besides beige around this time. While our internals maybe aren't the most special out of the kind of rare parts you really can have, this black case will bring the proper cool factor to our Pentium 2 build. We have all the parts we need to build a pretty awesome Pentium 2 system, so let's get to that build montage. You know, even Rocky had a montage. Our build is looking pretty amazing if I do say so myself. We have an era-appropriate computer of 1998 vintage that should be able to handle just about any of the games from that same year and beyond. Oh, I did forget one thing. There. Now it's complete. A computer obviously needs a badge. But just a computer won't do. We'll need some peripherals as well to tie it all together. I have just a thing with this black late model CRT from Dell. And while not exactly period accurate, the color match is just too good to pass up. Coupled with some other black extras, and we have one mighty attractive machine ready to roll. Looking at the machine as a cohesive package reminds me of something you could win in those late 90s sweepstakes, where a ton of stuff was up for grabs. Remember those? Our machine could basically slot right into this bundle of late 90s black electronics and feel right at home. Put together as a cohesive package, I think it looks really fantastic. With the machine completed and built, the next thing to do is check out some games, and actually use it. Let's take a look at a selection of games befitting our special build. It is 1998, so we just have to show off Half-Life. And to be fair, it was a groundbreaking game of environmental storytelling unseen or unheard of at that point. Plus, it's a really good fit for our machine as a whole. The Pentium 2 processor coupled with the Riva TNT makes for a really great experience. While Half-Life ran on a wide variety of hardware supporting many standards, I'll be willing to bet a lot of people experience the game on a machine spec'd out in a way that's not too different from what we have here. Regardless, it's a timeless experience and a near must-have on a machine from this era. Built on top of the Quake 2 engine, like Half-Life, Synth is still something pretty unique. Going beyond the standard military facilities and industrial settings of most FPSs of the time, it dropped you into office buildings and what looked like real city locations. The same reason Duke 3D felt so cool to me because it was set in more realistic looking places with a lot of interactive set pieces. That goes a long way towards immersing you into the game world, and Synth really does this well. Although the game does borrow heavily and rely pretty badly on some standard action movie tropes, it felt quite fresh to play when I tried it back then. Besides the quite cringy characters, it may be a bit of a forgotten game these days, but at least here it's a perfect match for this computer. While Final Fantasy VII was the game to make inroads in getting Eastern-style games to a wider audience in the West, the sequel maybe didn't make quite as big of a splash. The game was still cross-platform with the PlayStation, and the PC version above all brings 3D accelerated graphics, which looks quite nice during combat sequences. Pushing a mature story with gorgeous locales to explore and plenty of characters to meet is still an interesting game. It's still very much a product of the era and had a hard time living up to the game that came before it, but if you wanted to wield a gun sword, yes, a sword that's a gun, or maybe even a gun that's a sword in a game, this was your best and maybe only option. Return to the rain-soaked streets of the original movie in this seminal game following in similar footsteps. Blade Runner is dripping with atmosphere that does justice to a movie tie-in game. Although released many years after the original is borrowed from, it shows what Westwood, the masters of real-time strategy games, can do with a branching and narratively driven game that leans heavily into a style. And what a style it was. Dark, moody, depressing, but oh so awesome. Multimedia galore and a good showcase of what graphics could be, at least in a pre-rendered sense in the late 90s.
About 30 counts of animal murder and one of aggravated assault. The shop's been thrashed. You ought to see this tiger cub they got in there. It's a goddamn tragedy.
How's old man Runciter holding up?
State of shock. He's been moaning and complaining about his world caving in.
You'd feel the same way if they were your animals. How many perps?
At least 2. Bloody footprints all over the scene.
Must be a delightful sight.
We have a DVD drive, so we're going to play a DVD-based game. Leaning heavily into the interactive movie style of game, Tex Murphy Overseer is a sequel to the fantastic Under a Killing Moon, which at least to me was an amazing piece of multimedia. And while that game came on a bunch of CDs, Overseer also has DVDs included in the package, which dramatically increases the quality of the included videos. A perfect fit, as it were, and a great way to show off your brand new DVD drive in the late 90s. Step into the shoes of the PI Tex Murphy, who seems to sort of fail forward in most situations. It's a game that doesn't shy away from its movie inspirations, and honestly it's all the better for it. Plenty of cheese, but in a good way. A prime example of a multimedia heavy game done correctly.
The PI Rules is my Bible. 20 tried and true aphorisms.
Now, we do have that DVD drive, and like I mentioned earlier, I used to watch DVDs on my computer back before I got an actual DVD player for my TV. So we have to relive that very same experience. Memories might be flooding back here as I enjoy these very DVDs back during this time, especially my imported version of The Matrix. I simply couldn't wait for it to be released in Europe, so I ended up buying it shipped from overseas. It wasn't cheap, but I could enjoy it in crisp DVD quality right on my computer. Our machine can handle DVDs with ease and really rounds out the multimedia chops of the system. As actual discs and physical media slowly but surely gets phased out of our daily lives, it's really fun to go back to when this was basically at the forefront of the next generation of media. Our special build is complete, and I think it turned out really nice. I slowly gathered the parts to complete the system, and I'm glad I got to the point where I could finally finish it. Putting all the pieces together really shows that a computer can be more than a sum of its parts. The all matte black color scheme makes it stand out, and the more than capable parts from the late 90s, it's ready to tackle a whole host of amazing games and multimedia experiences. I enjoy computers that have a purpose, that fill a niche of some kind, to help drive that nostalgia and being able to think back to a certain time period. This machine accomplishes that for me, and hopefully does the same for you as well. See, while I definitely have a soft spot for a good Pentium 3 system, the Pentium 2 era shouldn't be overlooked either. There are a ton of great experiences waiting for you if you have a chance to get or build a machine around that CPU. Personally, I'm really happy with how this computer turned out, and it looks cool, at least I think it looks cool. See, in the late 90s, beige was boring, black was cool. And that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for following along as I put a pile of parts together into a nostalgia machine for the late 90s. It's an era I love revisiting, and this machine is a great way to do it. Now, I'm going to go play some games and maybe watch a movie or two. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my other ones. I cover a wide range of retro topics, often focusing on retro computers. You can find me on social media as well as my website, and you can also catch me live every Thursday at 8:45 p.m. Central.